now have created to become, any teen can get a protection order for anything, which is not what we intended. And, you know, so, and then everything will be expunged at 18. Really? So it's, you know.
And they've eliminated teen dating violence definition
from the law, right. So at ODN, we're not sure that we can support it any longer, and we're the advocacy arm, you know, so it's kind of nutty, right? So not any teen, let alone a marginalized teen.
Yeah.
So
I just would like to say, as a service provider, what is good about the laws in Ohio is, say I have 2 women who are living together, there's domestic violence in that relationship, and the petitioner or the victim comes to my office for a protection order. If I can prove, you know, that they've lived together within the past 5 years, or and that there's been this history of violence or whatever, I'm good to go with a protection order. It should not matter if you're GLBTQ, as long as, you know, you meet the elements that's required to get the protection order. So that's one thing that's good
for adults,
I think,
right?
For adults.
Yeah.
Yes. But I guess with that whole umbrella of sub-House Bill 10 for the teens who need protection orders, it would probably be the same for teens who are in GLBTQ.
And it's just interesting too, because one thing that I've learned is that, you know, first of all, in the LGBT community, there's stigma anyways. But then there's this re-stigmatization where we add violence, intimate partner violence, as if it's, you know, this like, you know, very heterosexist world we live in, like talks about how, you know, if you weren't in these deviant relationships, then you wouldn't have that. So that's the problem, I think. So and then I think in North Carolina there's a lot of really ancient laws around things. So I just wondered, I'm moving back to Ohio, so I just wondered how that, after I'm done with school, so yeah, I just wondered how that was here. So, and for kids even, you know, the stigma is even more, like coming out and you're youthful and you're part of these heterosexist or heteronormative families, not sexist necessarily, and then how does that come off?
I think that brings up when we do, I mean, you know, I talked about the overlap between bullying and sexual violence and partner violence, and certainly all the issues about homophobia and heterosexism, whether or not kids are gay or lesbian, when there's sexual bullying going on and all of that comes up, doesn't have anything to do with anybody's identity, it's just what's used for violence.
Right.
And I think it's about educating your law enforcement where you work and live. There were 14 different jurisdictions where I was working, and once we educated them about it, there was no issue. They would make arrests, refer for protection orders, whatever. So we have the ability to do it in Ohio. So, and I would think that a lot of jurisdictions across Ohio are that way. So just.
Well, the other thing that we have, which is really wonderful, is there's a Buckeye Region Anti-Violence Organization here in Columbus, which is an anti-violence for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, and they're one of our subgrantees that we fund, and they're specifically, it's Bravo, and they also do training of law enforcement and other, you know, community groups on being appropriately informed about this.
And also a stakeholder at the consortium level.
We funded them to reach out to Cincinnati and kids let us know.
Yeah, we have, in addition to the community groups, the geographically diverse community groups, we have Bravo. We also fund the Asian American Community Services that are working with doing prevention in the Asian community, and then we fund an organization up in Northwest Ohio that works, originally they worked with migrant farm workers, and they started working more with people settled around the state, but people with Hispanic Latino backgrounds.
So I think this woman had a question and I saw it. Also back there.
I don't know if it's a statement or a question. When you guys put the data, did you actually include the text violence as well?
No,
Because that's a new thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Text violence, the text
Yeah.
sexual harassment, the text bullying.
it's gonna have to become part of our work.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how we can avoid it.
Cyber stuff too.
Yeah.
People are talking about it, but not, we haven't gotten to the point of data collection yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting discussion about how you would do that.
Yeah, one of the local communities that both Delta and ODH fund, they have a number of prevention streams of funding coming into their organization. Recently did a community forum on sexting.
yes.
And had, you know, the prosecuting, the county prosecutor was there, and I was surprised that in this kind of semi-suburban county, there were 75 people there to, you know, to learn about what sexting is and the consequences of it and that kind of thing. And so that was kind of interesting to be part of that. And I see time is running out, and I want to get to your question, and we have to wrap up before you leave.
Regarding teenagers, if there's stalking involved, you know, teenager stalking another teenager or any kind of bullying or sexual harassment or anything, is the school expected to take care of that, or is there laws, any kind of law protecting a teenager from another teenager?
There's a stalking law in Ohio that is aimed at protecting teens. But from what I know, so I know that there are schools in Ohio that allow boys and girls that have protection orders against each other to be in the same school, in the same classroom. So I know that that's happening in Ohio, and I think that's because schools are somehow insular. And so Debra?
Well, I would say both. I mean, schools should absolutely have their own school policies in place to address those kinds of situations, but also as soon as it gets to the point of being a crime, it should be turned over to the appropriate law enforcement. So
Right.
that, we've certainly seen lots of examples of that not happening, and I think schools need better education to know what their responsibility to turn it over appropriately also.
So before we let Chrystal back up here, I have here in my possession lists of our first year deliverables. We didn't pass them out because we didn't want to force that on you. And I also have here a piece of paper that says ways to engage. If you're interested at all in becoming part of the implementation of the state plan, come and see us. And we'll be here for the next 5 minutes.
First, I want to thank you both for speaking.
Thank you.
And we'll be taking it, you get a 15-minute break, and then the next session starts if you choose to be in this classroom. And there are evaluations, if you can fill out evaluation for this class, that would be great. Thank you.
Isn't it just the one blue evaluation that you fill out at the end of the day?
Right, but I'm not sure if it has it for all the
No,
sessions.
it's just this thing. All right. Come on, everybody. Don't y'all want to help us? We'll get you over there.
He has done more to different classes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Debra.
Bring it back.
And then,
Sounds good.
there is nowhere to return this to, so I will.
So, I'm going to see if there's 2 other people that are supposed to be with me.
Questions? Both of you.
Just wanted to talk to you all together to see how we want to do that. I'm thinking 20 minutes, and then.
And she doesn't realize it. She's supposed to stay out there. And it's, you know, and so what I learned about that is, Warren County,